Are we here?
Yeah, it is fine now.
And here, as I continue from here, so as you can see that we are across the whole value chain, which is unique to India, where others had. And here also, if you see that, we have pretty good capacities.
Madam, what percentage is India's production of the global output as far as cotton and polyester fiber is concerned? If I may ask or questions at the end.
Please ask at the end when presentation is over. Question
All right.
answer session will be there.
All right, will do.
Madam, please unmute yourself.
You are still
Use only one device.
Garbled. The voice is garbled.
Use one device.
The voice is confusing.
I'm afraid we can't hear anything and it's completely garbled.
Yes.
Just to answer that question, I just Googled
multiple devices will create echo. So one device should be entered.
No, that is very garbled still.
now, Chandrama, you switch off your laptop and see the screen on the what means this presentation, and then speak. Or you switch off your mobile and work on the computer.
No, I think she's on the laptop only.
That is good on laptop.
I'm both actually.
Don't use both, please. Switch one of them off.
And tell me to change the slide.
Yeah, I'll do that. There's no improvement in the voice, right?
No, now it's better.
Have you switched one of the devices that you were using off, Chandrama?
That's because voice is coming back mobile.
Okay, go ahead.
You use only one device, not both.
Your video device is muted. The one which we're seeing you on the video is muted. I think device on.
Is it better?
Not really. No, it's
No,
not.
no, not better.
I am putting my connection to before.
Not an issue. Go ahead.
Anyway, yeah.
To answer the question, India is the largest producer of cotton in the world with 5.9 million. China is at 5.7, the United States at about 3.9 million tons per annum.
Right.
Yes.
India is one of the major consumers.
Can you move to the next slide?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Can you move to the next slide? Yeah, whoever was talking about the figure, that's correct. India it's the first and the largest and the second largest producer, depending on the I think within the but it counts not.
Are you still using two devices? Because one device is shown as mute.
On in my laptop now, only my mobile now, because I hope that the connectivity will be better in the mobile.
Yes. You go ahead.
So the next slide is about our export. Sorry.
Yes, continue.
So next slides are about the our position in the global. So this is more of a snapshot. So the next.
Exporters.
I exceptionally bad network today at Mumbai.
Tell me if you want to change the slide.
Yeah, no. So we are looking at the global position of India in textiles. So textiles is relatively stronger. As you can see, we are the third largest, and we have more or less been able to maintain our position. In fact, the last 1 or 2 months have seen a good improvement in our position in the textiles. But if we move to the garment segment, which is the next slide, slide number 6, move to the next slide. The next. No, this was the slide 5. I think you have moved. You have moved this.
Should we?
No, please move back to slide 6, please. This is slide.
Go back to slide number 6, she's saying, please.
Oh, 6. Sorry. Is it? This is slide 6.
Before this also. 5.
No, you go.
Right. So we have a number 3 position in the world.
Yeah.
That's in textiles. The next slide is showing that in apparel we are in number 7. Now apparel is, though it is the value-added is very important, but that's where there seems to be a little bit of a competitiveness issue that the country is facing. Am I audible?
You're audible. You're audible.
Thank you. So as you can as the garment is where India is both garmenting and makeup, and since that's the end of the value chain, that's a bit of a matter of concern. That's where that's the vision to have a next slide number 7. That's about the overall market size, which shows that if you see that exports is just about 1/4 of the. we do not have it. I have an extreme, by the way, I'm really sorry for some reason. I'm very bad connected today.
Yeah.
I've been dropping off every 5 minutes. I don't know what has gone
Not
wrong with
not
the
an issue.
connectivity
Please tell me.
here.
Just tell me if you want to
Really
change
sorry
the slide.
about that. Yeah. So this slide was to give an overview of what is the domestic consumption records, and also to highlight that presently our market size is something like 160. Slide is saying 152. That's because it was 2021.
Should I change?
Which is about now I'm showing a few slides just on financial performance. Hello.
Yes.
I can see a few messages on rescheduling because of I understand the poor quality. Let me know whether we should continue or we need to reschedule. Dr. Lal, what do you suggest?
I think the audio is improving now slightly. So maybe if we could have somebody to just give the follow-up, whoever is able to listen. There's a couple of voices coming very clearly. So the action point or whatever is your point, if somebody else can take up for some time, then we can kind of keep it going. That's my suggestion. You're clear, madam. Now it's improving. It's improving.
I hope it stays there. For some anyway. So this slide is about the financial performance. So why I'm showing all this is to show that though most of us know this fact already, that we are good, we are strong, we have a good presence, but there are issues in certain places. Like if you look at sales, absolute sales figures that we could collate for the last quarters shows there has been a growth. But if you look at the EBITDA, which shows the profitability, that has not been that good. So here there is another issue. If you even look at sales, based on various studies, it shows that sales at the higher segments, which is the luxury products level, and the higher end has been good, but the medium average size is where it has not been good. Now that's where the bulk of our production is. So that's another area of concern, is why I thought I'll just talk of the financial performance. So it shows that we are presently more in the volume market, both in exports and in the domestic segment. But when it comes to value, when it comes to profitability, we still have some concerns. And that is where the rest of my presentation I would like to focus, which is as to how do we change that. Next slide, please. So now let's look at what's happening globally, so that then we can correlate that to what's happening to India, both domestic and exports. So now globally there is an issue, which is that we are seeing a stagnation in demand. That's largely because of some of these reasons that I've highlighted. Most of our major markets have thank you for going on continuously telling me on my audio. That's giving me some motivation to continue.
Yeah, it is improved.
No,
it's
it's
completely
perfect.
improved.
It's now perfect.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So now trying to see how do we relate what's happening globally to how our markets are responding to that. So globally, there has been a slowdown, and that's reflecting in the demand position. Another very important trend is the middle segment. So any product will have the high end, middle, and the base product. The middle segment is not growing so fast as the luxury end and the deep discount end. So what that means is that where India is best, which is the middle segment, the average segment is where the growth is slow. So that of course is impacting the demand position. Of course, globally, we know there is a little bit of a demographic adversity, basically that the markets that we are predominantly in, which is the Western European markets, also Japan, Korea, most of these markets, Japan and Korea, I have said because they are our FTA countries, and we are trying to strengthen our positions there. In all these places, the demographics are getting adverse, which of course doesn't help in the demand growth. And also, and another trend is that there is a stagnation in the apparel consumption because there's more shift that is going either towards the discretionary spendings on healthcare, leisure, or as I told earlier, it's going more towards the luxury end. So, so this at the top level, if there is single-digit growth, obviously it is translating to the whole value chain, and a good hit has also come to our raw materials, both yarn and fabric, because there has been far slower offtake of that. The other trend now, can we move the slide to slide number 10, global trends 2? Yes, I saw the chat. That's exactly my point, that the segment that we have largely been in for the past couple of decades has been in the medium segment. In fact, I will show a slide of the value additions, which the unit values, which will make this point very clear. Going back to the global trends, the world consumption has slowed down, and it is at the moment at a 2% per annum. This is coming from a Guernsey report. In fact, some of the trends that I could cull down from a Guernsey report has been put here. There is a restructuring and consolidation of the sourcing patterns. Now here there is a very interesting trend that is coming, that for many of the Chinese companies also, they are having a supply chain which is kind of trying to address the growing trend towards nearshoring, which is basically having most of their production into a warehousing kind of a concept nearer to the markets, and the last mile to the value chain is serviced from one of the areas close to those markets. And of course, a very important trend is of sustainability and circularity, which is coming not only as a consumer requirement, but the last few months have seen some. I am not being able to hear any voices. Can just somebody say a hello so that I know that I can hear you all?
You are okay. Now
you.
You are okay.
Thank you. So, so sustainability and circularity are, sustainability actually is the big word. Circularity also can be part of that. Is not just a consumer requirement. Some of the big nations have already started making legislations. The biggest step in this direction has been the EU, which in April actually has taken a decision that these will be legislations. So 2 countries have already gotten, and the others, so 25 EU countries presently are working on the legislations that will make the disclosures of each company that is operating in Europe and other in-scope companies there to declare how they are managing the various social and environmental risks from that. Data technologies, digital technologies are also becoming a very important. You have moved to the next slide, but I'm still on slide number 10, where I wanted to talk of 2 more things. One is the digital technology, which is impacting the way we are producing, the way we are supplying, the way we are reacting to demands, and of course the way the consumers are consuming. And this is another area where, in fact, a few studies are presently going on to see how much of a digitization is there in the Indian industry, and at all levels, be in material management, be it sourcing, be it production, be it supply chain, everywhere the penetration of digitization and digital technologies is still very low, and that surely is impacting our efficiencies, both cost and reacting to the market in terms of fast reaction to market. And the last is new business models. Now, these new business models that are emerging are, of course, one is about the digital platforms, the e-commerce, the B2B, the B2C kind of models. But besides that, the kind of models that new emerging brands like Temu and Shein are showing, which is of having a hybrid of a physical, low-cost bulk production, one part of it which is virtual or a remote, and of course, again, a last in connectivity very close to the markets. Shein and Temu, I understand, are growing at a space where in the next 4 or 5 years, as per a Guernsey report, they may overtake some of the leading global brands that we know of today, simply because of this kind of business model and a supply chain model that they are taking. Next slide, coming back to India. So this is about the textile sector's Vision 2030, which was shared by the ministry just 2 days back. As we all know, the new minister has come, and we all had a meeting with the minister, and that time this was shared. In fact, there is another vision document coming, which may be for 2047, where we are going to show, in fact, a far more aggressive stand that we want to take as a producing hub of the world. So if we go to the vision, we can see that presently, the present figures are more of an average. They are largely 2022 figures. 2023 have some improvements in that. But the point to see here is that we want to double our market in the next by 2030, and which is an uphill task. We are talking of an increase in apparel from apparel exports, that this is from 16.7 billion to a 50 billion, which we all know is going to be an uphill task. And of course, we are looking at a very good growth into emerging areas. One is technical textiles, and one is the fibers and other supply chain, value chain around that. So what does this vision mean? Next slide, please. The vision is coming from how we want to position in terms of a global market. We want to capture 10% of the global market. We, of course, want to capture a lot of investment. In fact, this $100 billion of investment aspiration is also reflecting in our new FTAs. The last FTA that India has signed with the EFTA countries, which basically is Switzerland, Norway, Liechtenstein, and Iceland, out of which, of course, the two major apparel markets are Switzerland and Norway only. One of the integral part of the FTA was also a commitment on investment. There's a growing feeling that, you know, the world market, of course, is stagnating. But what's more important is that our supply propositions, our value propositions in terms of both diversity and depth need some more investment to bring that about. And of course, being government, they also are looking at how much this can translate into employment. So we have some employment targets also coming. Next slide, please. So we have understood where we stand and of course where our pain points are. Pain points are largely, next slide, please. Pain points are is that we are largely stuck in the middle segment, which is the mass, very competitive mass-produced segment, and in the unit value range of $4 to $6.5. Now, this is a slide I recently came across and worked on. This is largely based on the US market, and which is why I put the source as OTEXA. But this is very revealing. This is showing how an European Union, which is a very high cost production market, is planning to grow. It tells a really big story, and maybe it tells a story for the next 10 years. If you see some of the major categories listed here, these are some of the top categories that are traded worldwide also. Look at the difference between the unit value realization that is there between the world average, and India is very close to that world average, and what EU is doing. So India in most of these categories are maybe half or 1 percentage point better or same, but look at the gap that is there, and that's where a huge potential lies. Now, how is that gap coming? It is, of course, coming from everything. Coming from the kind of fiber that is being used, coming from the kind of processing that has been done to that, coming from the kind of garment, the look, feel, the speed to the market, but also coming from other supply chain efficiencies that can give it that value. Besides, of course, the other value propositions that we see today, which is how sustainable it is, what kind of material it is coming out of. So from that, next slide, please. So from that, we can sense both where we lack as also where the opportunities are. So the opportunities lie in some of these structural shifts that we are seeing in the global market. One, of course, is the shift of fiber that many of us have been hearing. So we have been cotton predominant, but in the last 2-3 years, whoever is in the market, and many of you are there, would know that 100% cotton has drastically gone down. There is a huge shift towards blend. If not at least a 15% blend, we are hearing of products like lyocell and some of the viscose and polyester blends, which are now swept the market. Please don't move. Next slide. I'm still in this slide. Yeah. So there is a lot happening with the fibers, the synthetic fibers, the kind of blends that is coming. Another is the manufacturing shift. Now, this I've already spoken a few times about, as I've mentioned, that there is a hybrid manufacturing model that a lot of Chinese and Korean companies are taking. Besides this, of course, there is a trend towards micro factories that is coming up. Another important shift is the technology shift, which is basically contributing towards far lesser defect, far more optimized production, far better use of material, energy, water, and far better supply chain. Now, all that has today a very important bearing, because today manufacturing efficiency is not just about the manufacturing, it's also about the footprints we are leaving, which is the fifth point, which is the environmental shift. How sustainable the product is becoming a very important value proposition, and started showing a bearing on the finance also. So to that extent, all these are very important trends, and in them lies the opportunities that we are looking at if we are looking at the next 10 years trends. For the man-made fiber segment, the next slide, please. Where we know there are many growth drivers, many of them are also holding true for the Indian market, but a lot of them for global market. One or two important of this. One is the functional wear, which is like in the last 2-3 years we have been hearing of the athleisure segment. That has been a very important and fast growing segment. So some of these segments are coming and emerging mainly because there is a lot of potential that the brands and the consumers are showing in that. Next slide, please. Now, next few slides, I'm going to just list down some of the, next slide, please. Some of the policy measures that are being, as also are growth drivers, because many of them are trying to address specifically the areas where the industry needs. Now, one of them is the social link incentive scheme. Why? Because This has a special focus on technical textiles and MMF blend-based apparel and technical textile. Next slide, please. The next is something that hasn't been rolled out yet, but many of you would have heard a lot about, which is the PM Mitra scheme. This is again very important because this is again has two ambitions to it. Besides, of course, giving the kind of scale to an integrated production system which none of the SITPs or earlier schemes had seen, but also trying to create some clusters. Now, organic clusters, we all know in India there are one or two, but so there was a need felt for creation of inorganic clusters so that there is a better supply chain optimization. And there is, of course, another very important objective of these PM Mitra parks, which is again to do with sustainability, because obviously it is going to reduce the logistic footprints. The ambition is to have more of renewable energy. The ambition is to have more of optimization on every possible aspect there where the market today is very sensitized. Next slide is again PM Mitra. I'll skip that. I'll come to the PLI 2.0 because that again is something that we are expecting in this year to happen. Please come to slide number 20, which is on PLI 2.0. Now, this is about broad basing that earlier scheme of production linked incentive scheme. But the good thing here is that it is now going to focus on, which is going to have a larger focus. It is going to look at the whole textile value chain, but it is also going to look at accessories, machineries, the last point here that I've put. And these are very important segments because unless the whole value chain is there, we have seen in the last so many decades that any one point of the value chain we are weak, and that's where we get stuck. So we need to look at the whole value chain and where technology today is playing a big role. We, of course, are talking of machine technology, but we are also talking of soft technologies. Some of us who had been to ITMA last year in Italy would have seen that a large part of the exhibition there was about the soft technologies, which are kind of strengthening and improving the efficiency of the machines that has been there with us. So that's a very important area, and I think that's where India again has a lot of potential to be a market leader tomorrow. Next slide, please. Next slide is about the trade agreements. We all have been hearing about that, but that's an important driver, not just in terms of good market access. It's also in terms of better engagement with some of these markets, which today are also good suppliers. Next slide, please. Are good suppliers of some of the important raw materials that can also strengthen our value chain. Like the EFTA countries, Norway is a very good hub for renewable energy, and I think India is already looking at working on tie-ups to do that. Switzerland is a very good hub for technologies, for recycling technologies, for technical yarns. Now, these are very important input items which can strengthen our value chain. We already have FTAs with Japan and Korea. Again, Korea is a very important supplier of, again, some of the specialty fabrics and yarns. So we are looking at the free trade agreements today, not just for a market access, but also as a source of strengthening the weak links in our value chain, which have reduced our growth potential. Next slide, please. But of course, next slide, please. Market access remains important, and hence I wanted to put one slide. No, the earlier slide again, please. Slide number 23. To just give a comparative understanding of how the FTAs can help. Slide number 23, please. Yeah. So this is a listing of some of the important products which is traded globally, and how are the duties today in the USA, EU, Bangladesh, and UK. four countries with which we have a lot of trade, some of whom with which we are going to have better market access, some of whom with we already have, but have not been optimally utilizing. So this is just to show that in terms of even duties, how much can be gained from this free trade agreements, and hence we are looking forward to that. Next segment, please, which is about ESG and sustainability requirements. Now, how do we make that also as a growth driver? Now, here lies value propositions, which I was talking about when you're talking of the differential in the next slide, please, of between the European countries, where many of whom are today have an average unit value of some 60, 70 USD per piece of the product, and going even higher. So, so sustainability is something we all are hearing about. So do we look at it as a growth driver, or do we look at it as a market restrictor? If we look at what are the key requirements from sustainability, we see that in many of them, India has a huge potential. So what is required when India wants to demonstrate itself as a good, responsible, sustainable sourcing destination for the world? One is that all organizations need to show that and demonstrate. And demonstration means, of course, demonstrating through a lot of documentation and being in the public domain what they're doing, of being a purpose-led organization. So, presently, most of the big organizations are dealing with their products as a commodity product. But that's where a lot of change is happening worldwide and needs to happen in India too. Second is reporting. Reporting in terms of a robust, credible, evidence-based reporting, which gives the organization also a clear vision and roadmap and helps it in understanding its risks and opportunities also. So the reportings, unlike the audits of 10 years back, many of my colleagues here are already very well versed in this. We have seen a huge transition that from a very compliance audit based system to a system where the whole idea is to see where your weak points are in terms of risk and trying to address that collaboratively, both the buyer and the supplier. So a lot of these legislations today are trying to do that. And of course, look at how to address the carbon, water, and the material footprint through a better optimization of the production processes and the supply chain. Next slide, please. I've just listed a few of the reporting formats that we are today hearing a lot about. The first is, of course, the main one that India has mandated, which SEBI has mandated, which is the BRSR. Now, here also, this is basically for the top listed companies, but recognizing that a large part of the Indian ecosystem is of MSMEs, there is a BRSR Lite that is also coming, so that the MSMEs can also get on board this reporting platform, largely to understand where they are. Now, reporting, we all have to understand, is kind of a checklist for yourself also as to what all you are doing. Is it adequately addressing your social and environmental risks, and what more needs to be done? But what is most important is the second, which is the human rights due diligence reporting, which is coming under the EUDD, the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive. That is, as I told earlier, also has been accepted by all the EU nations, and legislations are coming up now. So in a year's time or so, we will see that coming through our brands and buyers as one of the requirements coming to us. SLCP is again a very good platform. It's a very data-driven platform, which a lot of Indian suppliers are today using already, and can be actually a very nice, a very good neutral data-driven exercise to understand where you lie. In fact, 2 days back, I was part of a session with SLCP where I got to know, which is very good to know, that a lot of MSMEs have been onboarding SLCP for the last 6 months in India. In fact, India today has a very good percentage of total SLCP's ecosystem, and MSMEs are onboarding. So, as an industry support organization that I represent, City, I initially had a lot of concern that the reporting requirements are actually going to burden our members. But going by how the transition is happening, I feel that a lot of it will be a good checkpoint for our manufacturers to also understand how the world is moving and how they can improve in their small pockets of gaps that may emerge out of this report. Next slide, please. After a connectivity issue. The next slide is slide number 27. I have just listed. I hope I'm audible.
Yes,
Yes, yes. You are audible.
Thank you. So the next slide is some of the top priority areas that if organizations or consultants who are helping organizations would like to see how they want to prioritize. So these are, one is of course material in terms of choosing the right material, alternate materials, but also choosing materials that can enable and impart traceability. One is of course process and the value chain of how it's impacting the climate. The chemical aspect is becoming very important with the whole list of chemical compliances coming in place. So some of them would more be for the mandatory requirements that are coming up. The sustainability measurement that we have already discussed in terms of the reporting and the disclosure formats that will be required. The last, I feel, is the most important, which is engaging with your consumers. The consumers, the brands and buyers, the consumers for my domestic manufacturers can be the final consumers. Here, one thing that has been to some extent lacking is the kind of communication we do through the labels, through the packaging, through the other communications on your website, social media. Are doing a lot of good things as I come across many of them, but very few get documented, very few are communicated through the larger platforms. So that's becoming extremely important worldwide, and I think as stakeholders, many of whom we are here, and those who are working with the industry, it's becoming very important, and we should prioritize that as an important way to value create also for our product. I hope I was clear. The next slide, please. So the next slide is about how are we doing? How are we doing when it comes to reporting? So we at City had done a quick survey of the major Indian textile listed companies. I'll just come back. This is Social and Labor Compliance Protocol. SLCP stands for that. So how are we doing in the ESG reporting? The good thing is today, since SEBI has mandated, there has been a very fast progression in this. If you look at, if this table was to show a 2019-20 vis-a-vis 22-23, it would have been largely a 90% increase. The percentages are better. What I mean is that each passing year, India is doing very good with its ESG reporting. Maybe a little driven by the lot of legislations that is coming, but maybe because also that people are seeing a value, a consumer appreciation, a stakeholder valuation, even financial market valuations in this. So if you look at what we found out from the Indian textile listed companies is that in 2021, around 80% of the listed companies were reporting. And of course, out of that 80% were doing full disclosures and 20% were doing partial disclosures for the environmental aspects. But social has been a concern always, and we know a few reasons why it is so. So in social, the disclosures were like 16.6% full disclosure only. Now look at the figures for that in 22-23. In social, there has been 100% disclosure by the listed companies. And in environmental also, there has been a good improvement with 93.33% disclosure. Why is this? Now, herein lies, a lot lies in the details. A lot lies in what is being asked for and how the reporting are being done. But then that's a huge area of discussion in itself again. But I wanted to highlight this simply because that there's a lot of good news in this. There's a lot of good news in terms of how we are progressing, how we are strategizing, how we are being aware of, and how capacities are being built for all of this. Next slide, please. So the next slide is basically a reiteration of what I just said, with just one more highlight, which I wanted to highlight because maybe through some of you, I can also pass this message, is this common observation. The observation is that there are two areas we are still lacking. One is digitization, which I've already talked about. One is on diversity. Now, diversity is becoming a very important criteria for a lot of brands and will soon become for other consumers also. Now, gender diversity is something that India doesn't talk too much about. But when it comes to being a supplier, supplying to the world and to the consumers in India also, which is growing, gender diversity will be an area where we'll have to look. So it is in terms of we'll have to demonstrate how much of an equal opportunity producer and supplier we are, what kind of a workplace gender diversity and safe workplace we are offering, how we are promoting that, what kind of a promotion policy are there. So that was just a small point I thought I'll highlight through this. The last point in a way, next slide, is about India's movement towards mandatory standards. We all knew about BIS, the Bureau of Indian Standards, which has been there for a long time and which has been doing a wonderful job of voluntary standards. But the world has changed. India is today fast moving to mandatory standards. And for that, these quality control orders have been coming. These are, of course, the objectives. The last slide, please. So the quality control orders are basically mandatory standards that have been put in certain categories. Next slide, please. Now, slide number 31. So slide number 31 lists some of the categories on some of the products in which BIS is already coming forth, and many more are coming. More than something around 250 textile products are going to come under the quality control order gambit, which basically means that these products, when these products are used in the market, they'll have to be BIS certified. And basically, the idea is that no substandard products, especially when it comes to health and safety, there will be no compromise on that. So it is, in a way, India's attempt to create its own standards, its own benchmarks. Of course, presently, it is having a lot of other challenges, mainly because at the moment, it is on the last end of the value chain, which is the fiber. And since fiber is the start of the whole value chain, there is some value chain disruptions that is going on. At policy level, we all are working on it. We are trying to address that. But what's more impactful is that India wants to create its own standards. India, as we have seen now, is more aware, is doing a lot of reporting. India is far more, is building its capacities. India is doing a lot of engagements and agreements with other countries to gain more capacities where it is lacking. So overall, as I can put up as the last.
This is the last slide. You want to next?
It's a good as a lot of important developments are taking place. And with that, I end my presentation. Thanks for all the patience. I personally also struggled a lot facing a lot of blank screens and the noise issues. But I hope I could.
It's all right, ma'am. It's all right. Thank God that we were otherwise challenged with thunderstorm also. so I could not have much supported also from my side.
Thank you, Pandaji. The young man has helped us at the crucial stage when we were looking for some help.
Yes.
And you have come to our rescue. And then see such technical
It's all right, sir. It's all right. I'm also a member of your.
Technology is like that. I welcome and thank Dr. Sheshadri Ramkumar also, who has joined from USA and he is still there. Can you unmute yourself, Dr. Ramkumar? Unmute and speak something. Dr. Sheshadri Ramkumar, please unmute yourself. Okay, anyway, I'm sorry for the technical glitches which have happened in the beginning, but later on, everything is well, which goes on well at last. So we could not do some formalities of introducing this Chandrima and other who are organizers. But nevertheless, Chandrima is known to everybody. I don't think it may be necessary now to introduce her. Perhaps Sudarshan Sharma can give a brief introduction of her and then he may start the question answer session.
Sure, I do that. 1 minute, please. Basically, if I have to say something about Chandrima ma'am, Ma'am Chandrima ma'am is Secretary General of Confederation of Indian Textile Industry, that's CITI, and she's based at New Delhi. With a 25 years plus experience in research, policy, advocacy, trade facilitation, and it was very much visible from her presentation as well. Besides working for the trade facilitation and competitiveness issues for the textile value chain, she has been associated with skilling, sustainability, responsible business initiatives, and recognizing the growing role of these competitive issues in the industry. Having worked on domestic and export sector and dealt with the issue of entire textile value chain through her earlier stints at AEPC, CITI, and national bodies like SHM, she has been lending her expertise for all over growth of the textile value chain, in line with CITI's vision for a strong textile industry in India. Actually, we have worked together at AEPC for the MMF project, and she is real knowledgeable lady and she contributes meaningfully. Thank you, Chandra. Now I'm opening the session for the question answers. If someone has the questions, you can ask to Chandra ma'am and she can reply accordingly. Please. You'll have to unmute before asking the question.
Yeah, this is Ravi Toshniwal from Banswara Syntex Limited. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Sharma ma'am, can you hear him?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
We can.
So I'm wondering if Chandrama can hear me.
Just a minute. Just a minute. Just.
She has muted herself. Okay, so I'll ask the question anyway.
Yeah, please.
So, these QCA orders that have come about, and particularly we want growth in the man-made industry where we see a lot of potential from India. And we have one of the largest polyester manufacturers in the country, and we have one of the largest viscose manufacturers in the country. The QCOs seem to be benefiting the monopolies, in fact, and they don't seem to allow the best value products at the best price and are blocking these through the QCOs. When the customer understands very well what he needs, why are you restricting the customer and not trusting the intelligence of the importers?
Toshna, I completely agree with you, and you're aware that
Your voice is still garbled again.
Not purely. There was a voice break.
Anyway, I think she has got problem with her net connection and all. Let us invite questions on the this
Chat.
site or to the secretary@nistiregistered.com, secretary@nistiregistered.in, and then they will be sent to Ms. Chandrama and it will be replied.
Will someone
So,
please type that email on the chat?
Mr.
Nahi, Chandrama, your voice is breaking. It's really little bad because of net issue at your end. Dr. Yadav, please share the secretary@nistiregistered.in mail, or should I share it?
Okay.
Yes, sir. I suggest that such forums should not end with this much discussion only. If
Yes.
we can create a platform for discussion continued enough.
But her voice is breaking.
I mean, question, answer, discussion, all these things can be taken further.
Maybe she can just chat. She can just chat her answer back on the chat rather than on the voice. Even that is fine. Chandrama, is it possible for you to chat back? Because we cannot hear you. Please type back. Right, I got the email ID and I will send my question on the email ID, but I think it will benefit everyone if maybe we can get some sort of an answer, which is on the chat right now, that everybody can see.
Chandrama, can you share, can you give your email address on the chat box?
That I have done already. Email ID.
Chandrama. Okay, then
No,
I think let us invite the comment of Dr. V.K. Kothari and Kuldeep Sharma. Dr. Kothari, please.
Lal Saab, this is Ram. One of the aspects I follow what Mr. Totniwal said. The thing which has never been discussed about is the policy for fiber. That occupies 65% of the manufacturing cost. And what is CT? and the policies are going to do with fiber. And Mr. Tortniwal talked well about two fibers, but that's not the issue. The weak link is on nylon and high tenacity fibers. And then
Yes.
with the cap on cotton production at 325 lakhs bale, you have to compete and get to about twice the export. And if you see the OTEXA from US, from where I am, it's mostly cotton products that gets exported. So what is the policy with regard to fiber? So that has been missed, and CT must have done some work on it, and that has to be also shared in the forum, sir. But anyway, thank you for doing this. It's a very worthwhile session as always, and I thank Vijay and you for doing this.
Anyway, Dr. Ram Kumar, Chandrima has listened your comments and she will reply you. If she is not getting it, you can write to me. I will send that message to her for reply. Yes,
Mr. Ashok
Dr.
Desai wants to say something.
Dr. Desai.
I hope I am audible.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, madam, for a nice presentation. See, just give me 2 minutes to raise the question. The industry shifted from advanced countries to countries like India, China, and all these things. Now it is shifting more towards our neighbors who are less developed than us. What is the point in going on grumbling every now and then about the duties, the FTAs, this, that, and cycles are there for our industry up and down. Instead of that, why can't the industry move to a higher end from consumer goods to specialty products, specialty finished products, and such high-end items, which can perhaps give the higher unit value realization, less competitors, because any Tom, Dick, and Hardy cannot do that kind of a products, which we should do instead of going on crying every now and then with the government support, this, that. I don't know. I don't understand at all what is this. Because we are now an advanced country in terms of many aspects, if not as much as Europe or US, but still we are at a much better shape than many of our LDCs, lower developed countries. And we are still going on doing the same thing which anybody else also can do. Why not we shift from consumer goods? What is the point in sending gray yarn? And why not we shift to specialty products which are plenty and which is in demand in advanced countries? That is one part. Second is, I was astonished to see that 93% improvement or reporting in the ESG, environmental matters, in 22-23. Can we have it as an assured data, say in the case of energy or water or whatever it is? I don't know what is the city's view on BRSR reporting of our industry. At least I am not very sure about the annual reports which give that environmental and maybe social and corporate governance is a different thing. But environmental things, probably city may have to look into more whether our reporting is assured data. Data must be assured. Thank you.
Thank you, Desai ji. You have raised a very valid point. And she is listening and she will definitely react to you in person separately.
Thank you.
Since voice is a problem. Any other person to give some
May I
comment?
suggest, Mr. Yadav, that we have replies sent to everyone rather than one-on-one replies back to those who asked the questions.
Okay, it will
So
be
that we
shared.
can all be part of that discussion, at least understand, because the whole purpose of this whole webinar in a way was to be able to get answers back for everyone.
Okay, Tosniwal ji, it will be sent to all in our through our mail, which
Thank
connects
you.
everybody who are there here.
Mr. Yadav, may I say something? This is Lubaina. Is my voice audible?
Yes, your voice is audible.
Yes. My name is Lubaina. I run a sock company called Mustang. And I must say that this discussion has been extremely impactful for an MSME. I come from a space of MSME. It's vital for us to understand the importance and the inevitability of a circular economy, sustainability, and ESG. So I think it's a vital, and I really thank you for the discussion. I just wish that we could have more industries of my size included in these conversations, and then maybe have a follow-up session to have a more interactive discussions. I'll be very, very happy. We're a mid-sized organization, and I know the kind of pressures that we have to be able to step up, whether it's compliances, whether it's capacity building. I thank you, first of all, for this very, very important discussion. But I also wish that whatever we brought about, if it can be made into a smaller second follow-up discussion, it would be great, because it would bring a lot of closure to all of our questions. And I appreciate Chandrimaji's inputs and all the data that you shared with us.
Thank you, ma'am. You share your suggestions through that mail, secretary@niftyregister.in, and we will take up what you have been suggested by you.
Sure.
We will do surely.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Dr. Lal.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, please
Hello?
go ahead. No, I'll take it later. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We are able to hear.
Yeah. My name is Raj Tilgul. Dr. Lal, thank you very much. Thank you.
I have met you in this Bharat
Bharat, yes. So I live in Turkey. Basically, I'm doing the textile trading business. Now, when I see the slides explained by Ms. Chandrima, you can clearly see that India's position in terms of textiles and apparel, number 3 and number 7. So there is an ample opportunity for value addition within India, rather than catering to the factors like duties or sustainability or circular economy and anything. So there is, when you look at India's supply chain as an outsider, you can see India is good until the yarn level. After the yarn, there is fabric, finishing, dyeing, and apparel. India has been weak. You can see from the slide as well. So I think you have to have some policies that will help to add value and bring this position from 7 to 3 or 2, or at least. When you see apparel exports, India is even lower than Turkey, which is a small country of 80 million people. And I think that should be concentrated on policy issues, whereas what India is doing now, putting BIS requirements and trying to create a protective barrier for Indian industry to add value or exports. So I think that should be a focus point. Thank you.
Thank you, Vadiraj-ji. Mrs. Chandrima has heard it, and she is directly in interaction with the ministry, and she would definitely suggest your points to the authorities in the ministry for taking. Of course, ministry is doing its all efforts, but still what you have suggested, that will be further impacted to them, and they will definitely take it in positive way, and then whatever is required and whatever they can do, that will be done.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just to follow up on that question, when you see the data presented by Chandrima, it just talks about the gap. I mean, we are number 1, number 2, number 3, okay. But look at the gap. When I see the share in 2022, if I can recollect, China is still 31%. And India is like at 4 or 5%. Can't we at a policy level just try and seriously see what China's done, because they've done it and gone off way beyond. So at least can we now at this stage look at this industry, which is the biggest employment generator, the biggest revenue generator, and it's got a huge supply chain aspect to it, but yet has been ignored progressively over the last 40-50 years. So I don't know whether it's too late, or whether there's going to be something in the wish list for the budget, or there's something which will seriously change this situation. and change it from a survival mode that it's always been in to a more progressive mode. That was for Ms. Chandrima.
Chandrima, are you able to listen it? Chandrima?
She is muted, but
Yes, yes, I can hear. Can you hear me?
Yes.
yes,
Please,
I'm perpetually muted. What do I do?
if you can reply here itself, you can do that, or else you can give your reply, which will be in bulk sent to everyone.
yes.
Yeah,
Were you
yeah.
able?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Now,
Okay. So,
Yeah,
so
please
all
jot
the
down all the questions and later on give a complete answer set.
So all the questions that everybody has asked, I, as a policy practitioner for the last 2.5 decades, have also asked, and many of them I also still don't have an answer to. But whatever my understanding from that, I will surely share. Let me send it from that. I will share that.
Thank you.
Ms. Chandrima, this is Ram from US. First, I'm glad that you are speaking now. Thanks for coming. And one of the things is like Mr. Toshniwal asked, by 2030, our export target is 100 billion, whereas right now China is 134. But if you look at these tariffs, now the Biden government has put in, and it's going to be an election issue here. What is the actual, from policy point of view and technology point of view, CT is advocating to the ministry to see where those gaps are from technical point of view, because nothing has been spoken about the competitive tariffs for all the importing countries from China. That has to be also taken into account. So the policy should also be planned, not only asking for our lenience in terms of our duties, but how is the China tariff is going to impact the global textile trade, and particularly Indian trade, has to be thought when you advocate for policies.
But I must share one thing here. When these targets were set, more or less unanimously, the industry's first priority in terms of a constraint that needs to be addressed is the supply side issue, which mainly the fiber availability. So one of you who had asked, you very correctly asked that do we even have those production capacities to aspire for being that size? So in terms of a priority of where we are lacking, the first is that we have capacity issues, be it at the fiber stage, be it at the processing stage. Yarn we are very good at, so that I'll be skipping. But fiber stage, processing stage, as also garmenting stage, mainly because we do not see that kind of scales in garmenting, and which is making it impossible to compete with the others. Dr. Ram, coming to your China tariffs, I think I means as of now that's not emerging as one of the key concerns, because if you see now in terms of our trade agreements also, we are diversifying well, and some of the new partners we are finding very good mutual beneficial grounds to cover. But of course, we'll have to see how we are leveraging. In the past, we have seen that we have not been able to leverage the FTAs also very well. With whoever we had FTAs, we have seen net imports finally from there. So a lot needs to be seen as to how we strategize those. So frankly, very frankly, policy enablers is only 20 to 25% of it. The rest of it is, I think, how the industry takes it. We have a great example in Bangladesh, which in 2004 was nowhere, and today we look up to them as also an aspiration. And that came a lot from the entrepreneurial skills that they also showed, besides all the policy support they got. So I think there is a lot to introspect there. Frankly, most of the things that you all have been suggesting, believe me, as a policy practitioner, at one point or other, I have pushed on them, but many of them were addressed at some point or the other. Look at the garment. During 2015-16, the special apparel package had come, which kind of addressed many of these issues, but we didn't see too much of a change. But look at how the domestic market for garments are vis-a-vis the export market. There you do not see too much of policy support, but it has grown. It is today far, far bigger than the garment export market. So I think it is a lot to do with how the entrepreneurs are reacting to the various opportunities and threats.
Right. I just want to say something like being an entrepreneur. So, one thing is true that the tailwinds are in our favor in terms of anything in policy towards China. It's usually negative, and everybody is trying to find a source other than China, and that's why there's so much talk about the China +1. So I don't think, having that tailwind, if we're not able to make headway and be able to achieve the objective of whatever target has been set, then it is a reflection on the managerial skills of our entrepreneurs. And for here, I think there is a lot of culture change required. And that culture change has to happen on the shop floor. If you're going to implement the latest digitization and technologies, which China has in fact implemented, and they have a much more efficient, robust, speedier technology and service delivery system as an overall compared to us. And you can see, and I attended a couple of technology fairs, including the Hanover Technology Fair, which talks about AI, robotics, and automation. And there was nobody from textiles there. I was the only guy who was there from textiles. And it was amazing to see what can be done, but it will never be done until we change the culture on the shop floor. Because you need a feedback loop. You need to involve the middle management, the shop floor worker. You buy these expensive machines which cost you $500,000, and they have sophisticated panels, and it's like buying a Ferrari but driving it like a scooter. I mean, we have SAP technologies which we have, and we pay those license fees, but we don't use 20% of the SAP. The problem is even senior management doesn't have the curiosity to play with technology. I mean, you do not buy a Ferrari because you want a driver to drive it for you.
In fact, I want to add, besides China, Bangladesh also has seen a huge increase in its costings. The wage increase has happened, and very soon we will realize that the Bangladesh competitiveness, as we thought, is because of the cheap labor, is not that. Look at the way they have invested in green technologies, in LEED certified buildings. So there is many other area where they have grown. So I think there's a lot of introspection that the Indian industry has to do also.
Yeah, it will happen. I have no doubt it will happen. A few of the industries are beginning to do it. And I think, I'm constantly in touch with FICCI. And FICCI invites us to several industries outside of textiles to see what's happening. And whenever it's like a Vardhaman or an Arvind or somebody who's done something about it, they don't extend an invitation to the other textile members. But that's just part of being a little bit more secretive about getting your same industry people in to share the best practices that you've learned. That, I guess, is acceptable to some extent, but you can always learn from others. And it doesn't have to be that if it is only implemented in textiles that you begin to believe that it can be done. If it's implemented in any industry, it can be implemented. We've done it. We've done it in the automotive sector. Our service sector today, in revenue terms, is much larger than the manufacturing. And we have achieved a lot. And if we can actually make a soft landing on the moon, we can have cheap launching of satellites, and we have all the technology for every particular software available. I agree with Chandrama. The potential is absolutely immense. It just needs us to apply ourselves and believe in the fact that we can do it.
Yeah, but I just want to, on a lighter note, The disruptions we saw perhaps reflects our comfort level, industry comfort level with the modern technology. That is one part. The second part is we keep complaining about Cambodia, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. I think we should stop that. Our competitors have to be more advanced countries. I repeat that, madam, our industry has to move upward in the value chain. That's it. Thank you.
I think Desai ji, I have noted your suggestion. Let us end this session. So I close this question answer session here itself and request all the participants to send their questions at secretary@nistiregister.in. They will be pulled in and sent to Chandrama, and whatever replies are received, we will send to everyone. So now with this, shall I call upon Dr. Kuldeep Kumar Sharma to say a few words, because already we are behind schedule. Let us finish it quickly.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Dr.
Thank you
Kuldeep
very
Sharma.
much, Dr. Lal.
Thank you.
It has been a very comprehensive seminar, and I'm delighted to see Mr. Ravi Tosniwal carrying on the legacy for NISTI, beginning from his father way back in the 90s. I had the pleasure of working with him long back at the floor level. And our friends Ram Kumar and Ashok Desai and a very, very eminent audience what we have in this particular seminar. It leaves perhaps another round of discussions, because there's so much offerings have been there in this by loading so many facts for all the stakeholders of the textile industry, beginning from farm to fashion. And we cannot conclude in this one session. So even this small scale segment, Madam Shahpurwala was also telling that there is some take on from this. So I think we divide these topics. The reflections of CT have been from all point of view, from entrepreneur point of view in the textile industry, and from policymakers' point of view also, and taking all segment of textile industry. So we cannot do justice in 1.5 hours or 2 hours, and especially when the technology impact was also there with us. So I think this invite for all the stakeholders a kind of physical meeting on the subject, and entrepreneurs like Mr. Tosniwal, who had been the pioneers in the promotion and functioning of the NISTI right from beginning way back from 80s and 90s. They can guide us on these fronts, and we can make it much more useful. Analytics has been so heavy that it is very difficult to analyze, but basics, if we see that we produce fiber and we are number 3. But when we produce and export garments, we are at number 7. So we lose in terms of value addition. If we are matching this, then we don't have to compare ourselves with neighboring countries or with the China, which has become a very, very kind of benchmark for our industry for a long time. I think there's a lot of ideas to be poured in on this time, but the time is short and chairman has already restricted on this. And with a good note, I would request all the eminent invitees in this to prepare for another session when NISTI is taking a call on this. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you very much.